Reflection is one of the key processes that most often gets neglected in academic program because it takes time. It takes time to pause, and I think in the entire calendar year of a school, that pause time is very difficult to snatch out of the timetable of the year. But if we do not put time for reflection, then the ability to refine the learning is compromised.
At the end of our term 1, and before you go off on your Diwali break, there's something you still haven't done. And what is that? Can someone tell me what that is? Yes, Priyanshi?
It's a kind of reflection we have, which we have done from the full term. We get to know what we have done right or what we can work on.
You said that it is a point when you reflect and look at what we liked, what we didn't like in the entire term. So why do you think that reflection is an important idea? Neela?
I think reflection is good and it helps us because we often do it at the end of the term or at the end of a month, and it helps because it first helps you to recap all which you have done throughout a certain period of time.
So you're saying it helps us revisit.
Yeah.
Okay. And then?
And it also helps us know like what we can improve on, what we have done well.
Can I say that it is a review then? So once I revisit, it leads me to review, and then finally, what does that lead me to do? How does that help me? Yes, dear.
If we have not done something well, then we will improve it in the second term.
Okay, so can I say I will start refining it? Can I put this? Right? So when I revisit, I'm able to review what I did well, what I didn't do well, and if I know that, then I start refining.
So reflection is a key process, whether it is for children, whether it is for the teacher team. It helps us review the work we've done so far so that we can then refine it. We would like to share with you different reflective processes that we do. Not that these are the only ones, there are several others, but these have a lot of potential for children and the adult learners in a space, also for parents, to be able to use a very definitive process and steps that allow them to look at the work we've done. So the first is a simple process called revisiting. As the name suggests, it revisits the experience. This is a powerful process, especially for younger children.
We made one more with decorated and so...
How did you decorate? What all did you...
We took coriander, tomato and cut it into a flower.
Very good.
Then we put it, then we made a butterfly, cucumber.
It is revisiting either an experience, a visit, a month, your pedagogy, your practice. It could be any idea. So let me share with you a little bit about how this practice and process helps students. So for instance, if a teacher has taken children to see the zoo, at that time you must understand children are so excited about the visit that their ability to observe or notice many different experiences is impaired because their focus is on probably the crocodile that they saw for the first time. But as a teacher, what you're doing is you're mindful of recording that experience in its many ways, in the sounds, in the smells, in the photographic evidence. And then when children come back, and then they have time to reflect, and we put together this experience again at the time then we can pause. It's more contained in our space when we come back to school. Then we put it together maybe like a photographic PowerPoint, or it could be the recording of the sounds of the animals.
It's also known as the Kakadiya Zoo. So, are you ready to see snakes, lizards, crocodiles, turtles and tortoise?
And then when the children revisit that experience, it triggers the memory again. And when it triggers the memory again, there are several more connections that are made that they might have missed in that first visit. And in triggering and igniting that memory again, it gets filed better for children. So that experience becomes richer and it stays.
The handwriting they have on the board, what they have written for the animals, it was so small that we cannot see and read the information.
Okay.
So, and also what's beautiful is in about that, in that revisit, several of the other children will share moments that connected to them. And therefore, in those various connections, that experience becomes more meaningful. So this can be done in many ways. So for instance, you can do it at the end of a month, and we can put together a record. In fact, this is where the children come in and they revisit the experiences that they have enjoyed the most. And in that record and evidence, they make visible to the teacher what has connected to them. And that's brilliant. So that's one process. The second very powerful process is called Glad Sidemat. And as again the name suggests, it allows teachers and children to go through a period of time. It could be an event. So for instance, it could be, say, a performance that they've done, or maybe an annual day. We want to wind up and give a nice closing the loop for the AIR and the start of the new year. So we're going to have a kind of a quick recap. First off, of course, you guys were brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Or it could be an entire term that has gone by. So basically it allows children and the teachers to be able to put down everything that was glad about that moment, sad and mad.
It was actually my mom's birthday, so I thought I'd give her a good birthday gift. And
I love acting and I'm serious about it in artist in residence. So they told that if you actually want to prove to yourself that you can do it, you should do some serious theatre. They really liked the performance. My dad didn't understand much, but but he still liked the play a lot.
The entire artist in residence was absolutely fabulous, but there are one or two things that we are sad and mad about. The first thing being the biggest thing, we're sad that it's over.
It's more about, why is it over? Amazing AIR, and I'm mad that it's over.
only sad part was that...
Very critical component, of course, here is it to be non-judgmental. So it's not about saying, oh, you didn't like this, or you felt mad about this. It's really just to unpack the feelings of the children or the teacher team. In fact, if it's done with the teachers also, that's very powerful. But it allows everything to be made visible for next steps. Again, it's a time to pause, to review, so that the next portion can be refined. So Glad Sidemat is a very powerful process to be able to do that reviewing. Another process which is extremely powerful is a stop, start, continue. Very similar to the Glad Sidemat. The stop, start, continue is a fabulous reflective process to map out the future plan. In fact, what you will see is how the teacher community does it by saying at the end of the term or the year, what I need to stop in my process, what I need to start, and what I need to continue. If I'm looking at personal growth, what did you become as practitioners at the end? What further scaffolding you might need for the following year? And what can we do to make your next year as meaningful and full of well-being as possible?
Throughout this journey, I have grown professionally a lot. So this is a tree, it's me, a huge tree, and all these flowers are my learnings.
And then passionate. I was passionate while doing my collection for Akshay Patra.
I think I need to be enabled much more to make this completely matter to the children.
I was a mentor for the reading cohort, trainer for the Army School, Ananiketan, the Bhutan teachers and leaders, and Akanksha, which happened at the beginning of the year. So this was a good year for me.
Again, it's a lovely roadmap. It's a roadmap for the future to help us review practice that we have done so far, so that the roadmap becomes better, so that it is more refined. Another reflective process, and especially really for the teacher team, is to look at data. And how do we know our children are doing well? How do we know what we need to do better as a teacher team? How do we know how to prepare better for our children? This process is called Inform, Repair, Prepare. Again, the data that emerges from the ongoing assessment that we do in the school, it could be from a unit of study that we have done, and we've got some data, many schools it's through marks, it could be through a continuous comprehensive assessment system that happens in schools. But there is always data that suggests children today are better than yesterday or more informed than yesterday. But how do we know that, right? How do we know whether what we've done has really registered or really been filed as we had anticipated in our planning? Well, then we have to pause. And in the Inform, Repair, Prepare, looking at the data, we're able to say, yes, this is what we're informed with. This is how our children are doing academically, socially, emotionally, all the parameters that a school might look at. And then what do we need to repair? There will be maybe certain elements we say, maybe cognitively, we say, okay, fractions didn't go very well. Okay, or we can say, okay, sentence structure is still not in place. Or we can say, you know, collaborative enterprise, the fact that they can't work in groups. So it could be through many ways. That needs to be taken care of. And how we prepare are the strategies we plan for so that our practice is more refined. So inform, repair, prepare is a wonderful, rich process for the reflective practice that the teacher community can do.
You have to just make sure that is that the same way in which they are writing. So,
So focusing more on the way they speak and the way they connect,
right? And the use of vocabulary. So the use of vocabulary will again enhance.
Really, what we'd liking to highlight and to say that you cannot in any way in a continuum of learning know if you're going ahead if you don't pause and look behind. So very often it's like the lighthouse. If you don't see that the lighthouse is guiding you, and if you just are so caught up in the steps, you might be veering away from the path of the lighthouse. So when you lift your face, you might say, oh my God, I don't even know where the lighthouse is. So the reflective process is allowing you to stop at a place, guide yourself to the lighthouse, to know that you're continuing. But you also need to look back and see how much distance you have covered. It's a beautiful process, must be done, and really allows the entire learning community to get that much more enriched, because every time you pause and review, you have better chance to refine a process.